Warriors up over the Sharks. Who'd have bloody thought? 20 minutes into that game, the boys are down by 20 points. You know, here we go again. Slow start, but they did it. 32-30. Last minute win on the back of a Shaun Johnson kick. Let's go. Well, team, what the hell just happened? Sitting here in a hotel room, getting ready to fly out back to Japan for a couple of weeks tomorrow. Off the back of a night of pretty much no sleep, so amped, so hyped, so much adrenaline pumping through the veins after that effort from the boys. But we'll try and pump out a bit of a review here for you, give you a few takes that I came out with after watching the game for a second time with a little less emotion involved. Yeah, some really interesting signs. Some is not as worrying as I first thought. So, first take, right? I talked about it in my preview of the game. We wanted a fast start. Unfortunately, our first set in possession there, near quarter, drops the ball, second tackle in. They get the ball, end up with a kick across there, and a bloody try in the corner within the first minute or so. Yep, backed up by another couple of quick tries there in quick succession. Differently though this week, you know, there was a part of me who wasn't quite as nervous or as frustrated as I was against the Bulldogs the other week. Purely based on the body language of the team. They had their heads up. They were running as hard as, you know, I've ever seen them. They were tackling as hard. The line speed was as good as ever. You know, they hadn't dropped. You know, there was no panic stations going on there. So I just felt like if the game went on, we might be able to claw it in. Now, initial feelings watching live was, what the hell are our edges doing? You know, sitting there giving points, you know, a points ranking system for the guys here in my mind as the game went on. And even before I went back and watched the game here, I was thinking, how do I give decent points to our wingers and our centres and edge players there after what happened? But I've got to give it to Cronulla. Those tries, well, you know, 3 out of their 5 tries came from, you know, really effective, slick attacking plays from Cronulla that made us look like our edges were just not manning up. But in every one of those situations, the Cronulla Sharks had actually set this up. So what I saw they're doing is when they're getting into our sort of, you know, the attacking quarter or attacking third of our half there, they're playing really quick plays of the ball, really flat passes to their edge forwards, but quite wide of the ruck. Then they'll go back from left to right, and as they get a bit of a pace on, we're committing more and more guys to the tackle. And when it gets to the point we've got 4 players caught up in the ruck, and they're able to get a quick ball away, that's when they spin it. Now, one point of difference from the game against the Dragons last week was that Nico Hines was actually first receiver a lot of the times. So that was putting us in 2 minds. We were actually probably prepared for seeing him at second receiver, wider out, which he did on almost every one of their scoring plays against the Dragons. But this time he was getting the ball earlier, putting us in a bit of decision. But by the time he got the ball away from the ruck, they had massive overlaps. So for their first try, the first try came from a kick. From their second try, it was a 4-on-5. We only had 4 guys out there. They had 5 or 6 if you include the dummy half. For the third try, we had 3, they had 5. And for the fourth, we had 5 and they had 7 players. So what they're able to do is, I'm assuming this is definitely a planned play, but when they actually pull the trigger, I'm not sure what the call is on the field there. As soon as we get 3 to 4 guys in our middles are caught up in the play of the ball, and that quick play of the ball goes, bang, they go wide. And by the time it's getting out to our centres and our wingers, you know, they've got 2 to 3 on 1. So I initially thought it was Montoya or Viola making bad decisions, but they were screwed before the ball even got to them. So I hope a lot of people actually go back and have a look at this before they pay out the wings and the centres for those tries, because there wasn't much they could do. And other than those set plays where they were able to achieve that and get the tries, if you watch our boys, they scrambled really, really well. In a lot of cases, you know, they still managed to cover those one-man overlaps. But when you're getting two, it's pretty bloody tough. And they're very good at actually playing down those short sides as well, playing a similar kind of play. So props to the Sharks on that. Mixing up, having Moylan and Nico at first receiver there. Nico sort of really takes a lot of attention from the defense, just creating space. Well done to them. But to our credit, we obviously had some kind of way of sort of overcoming that. And if I looked in the second half, I don't know if this is what they were trying to do, but there were a lot less situations where we had those multi-man tackles on our line. We're able to get there, stop the momentum, and the third or fourth guy would drop back into the line really quickly. So we only had the markers there. But in those early stages where we're trying to control their middle forwards who are full of energy, we were needing 3 or 4 guys in there. So that was the point of difference. For us, what I noticed that we're doing is with this really direct type of footy, all of our plays, both our backs and our middle forwards are just running straight up the guts, one after the other, hitting their props and their 13 and their hooker, one after the other, one after the other, one after the other. And initially we don't make that much ground, but by the time you start getting into the second half and they start to fatigue, we start making more and more space, more and more meters up the middle there. You know, some of those runs from Dylan Walker, even Suriname, running 20 or 30 meters because their middle forwards are so fatigued they can't get back to 10. So I think that's a real, set play that we're doing. And if you look at our ability of our back five, I will say on the weekend, both our centres, both our wings, and Chance's ability to take the first 4, if not 5 hit-ups and those hits off our line, giving our middle forwards that rest so then they can get up there and look after them in defence. But when you watch the Sharks, their backs were only taking the first maybe 2 or 3, and then their props were having to come in and take the third and fourth tackles there. So they were getting through a lot more work, and that was shown by the amount of meters they were making compared to us. But right around that last 20-minute mark, you could just see that the Sharks really struggled to get their forwards back on side after our kicks. Sometimes it was getting through right through the set before some of their guys were actually getting back behind the play of the ball. So great strategy for us, and just the fitness. You know, you saw the hands on hips from 10 minutes into the second half from the Sharks. I didn't see one Warriors guy hands on hip bending over or gassed. The fitness, I think, of both Kossi and Montoya shouldn't be discounted, because they were hitting the ball as hard in the final quarter as they did in the first half, and they just became the point of difference. So, you know, a balance of 2 different game plans, but in the end, I think the grind and the respect for the ball and playing the long game really, really works for us. So that's why I think we are able to come into a lot of these games, and reflecting back over the Bulldogs and the Cowboys, our forwards were always the ones that had the gas in the tank in the final 20, and even for the Roosters in that first game in the Big Heat, I think it was just a little bit of lack of execution there, but we would definitely have the fitness to go with them. So props to Webby for getting those guys so physically fit that they're able to stay in these games. The resilience, the mental strength to stay on point. Listening to Webby's post-game review there, and the press conference, I should say, just talking about how they just said it half-time. Look, every time we get into their attacking zone, we're scoring. Every time we get a chance of putting points on, stick with the process and just keep going through. And they, talking about dealing with the gaps out on the edges, they'd come up with a way to do that in the second half because we didn't see it. We got that one try at the end there to Mulatalo in the second half. They did spread it wide and got through us, but I think that was just, that was on the back of some really great fast plays of the balls from their guys, and we were just too gassed to kind of man up wide there. But in the first half, it was a little bit different. So, hey, we should be just absolutely stoked with that effort. We've come up with a game plan that works. We're sticking to it for 80 minutes, proven time after time that we've got it. What we've got to do now, though, is nail those fucking starts. Excuse my French. 20 points, what do we go from 12 points, 18 points, 20 points, and these past 3 games are getting down there. It's not something you can maintain, and it might take a bit of a loss for us to actually learn to fix that, but shit, a totally different outfit who can stay in these games, and you can hear that by all the commentary on the Fox and SEN. The Australian pundits are really starting to recognise the change in attitude and resilience. So can't compliment Webby enough. 3 months, what he's done to turn around this squad, absolutely outstanding. I'm struggling to come up with the words to kind of explain how excited I am for what these boys have been able to do. Looking at the Sharks, I think their attack is probably the slickest and most purposeful out of all of the teams compared to the Broncos, who've got a lot of points in them. They're playing a little bit more razzle-dazzle. A lot of their tries are coming from sort of line breaks way back down the field and just having the size and speed to get there, whereas I think the Sharks are able to manufacture points, particularly with Hines in there. There's a lot of tries they've scored. I think it's about 12 tries in the past 2 games. Granted, we're top 2 team, but they'll be tested when they get up against the likes of the Souths and the East and so forth. But Nico Hines, absolute gun. It's really hard to dislike the guy, actually. I often hate a lot of Australian bloody halves because they're such cocky pricks, but Hines is such a great guy by the looks of it, and I just enjoy the way he plays. And likewise with their pack, really strong, solid, direct. They've got really interesting sort of lean, sort of more mobile edge back rowers, and it works well for them. So I highly expect the Sharkies to go all the way into the Final 4, I would say, at the end of the season, if they can stay fit and if they can get their defence sorted, because they wouldn't want too many teams putting 30 points on them. But hey, probably the best win of the season, without doubt. Playing, the team was probably in the best form. But the win itself, that comeback, I don't think I can remember a better comeback from the Warriors ever. I'm starting to run out of energy here after a long day at work and getting all out to the airport here. But geez, yesterday I didn't sleep till 2 o'clock in the morning. It felt like a World Cup win or something like that, where you're just tweeting and texting and sort of commenting with randoms you've never met, but everyone's just so fired up and excited. I put up a post. I managed to screen record Shaun Johnson's post-match interview live there. If you threw in the F-bombs and put that up on Twitter, and it's got like 180,000 views, like just getting retweeted in the comments. That it's so good to see him back and playing with enjoyment. So, starting to lose the energy a bit now, but shit, that was so much fun. I'll just go for a quick rundown of the points. The points I gave the guys, again, on the back of that win, there's 30 points against us. You've got to take away some points, but I just think the resilience here, I've gone again a bit strongly and probably giving a couple of guys a couple of extra points, but hey, I'm a Warriors fan. I can afford to be biased. So, Charnze Nichols-Klokstad, I gave him a 9. Realistically, how did I take away a point? He should have been a 10, maybe. 207 metres, 9 tackle breaks, 24 runs. Shit, that's James Tedesco-like. Just an absolute machine. Just keeps pumping it under that high ball. Outstanding. Best buy. Had I know Reece Walsh is going nuts for the Broncos there, but still I have no regrets of having CNK here. I think he matches the game that we're trying to play, so happy to have him. So Kossi, Montoya, Viola and Pompey. I initially gave these guys kind of lower points due to those tries that went through their lines on the edges over there. But if you actually go back and look at the amount of effort all of those guys put on attack, put on defence, other than those few tries that were they were let down by the numbers that they're up against, by the strategy that I talked about before from the Sharks, those guys were outstanding. So they all get 8s for me. I think Kossi, dropped a couple of balls there, but he also made Mulatalo lose a couple of balls there as well on the other side, and they both got tries. That was a really fun watch, and the amount of shit they were giving each other. Viola, I feel like this little inkling he's a little bit lazy out there at times, but nothing really sticks back. You know, it flashes up a point in time where I felt like it was genuine laziness that let something through. So I'm going to give all those boys 8, just purely on the workload they showed to get us off our line and the hard yards they made. Volkman, a tough one for him. You know, you've got a guy who's only in about a second or third first grade game, coming in with such a dominant half and SJ to try and play outside of. Smaller guy, he got run over a couple of times, but just kept putting his body on the line there. He pulled out a couple of really mint kicks when he had to. He set up one of our tries there that Egan got, perfectly pinpoint kicked. Got a couple of repeat sets of 6 there. So I think he'll just grow into it, you know, building those combinations with him and Ford out on the edge there so he can protect him a bit. But I gave him a 7. Some people might have been a little bit more critical because he got pulled there at the end, but, you know, I couldn't ask much more from a young fella there coming in out of the New South Wales Cup. So well done to him. SJ, 10. What else are you going to do, mate? Every week he's taken it to the next level and taken it to the next level. And a 10's not to say he can't even go further, but I just think you couldn't have asked for more from a guy in that game to bring us back into it. He was the guy doing all of the talking. He wasn't even captain, but he acted like he did. Clutch in those big moments, that kick at the end there, and probably the best post-match interview I've seen in years. You know, just the passion, speaking from the heart, and I just love that from guys like him and Jazz. They don't talk a whole bunch of bullshit, contrived crap that the media sort of training gets out of them. They just speak from the heart. They throw in the F-bombs, you know. It might not make a great deal of sense at times, but shit, it was good. Just loving the fact he's back playing with passion and loving his footy. And it just, you can see the boys feed off it. So well done to him. Jazz coming in for Harris. You know, a bit of a last minute change there that I don't think was ever last minute. Outstanding. I think, what did he do? 156 metres, 41 tackles at 98% tackle efficiency, 17 runs. What an absolute machine. You know, the talk that he might not be good enough to make first grade this year, I've never questioned his passion, his energy and his enthusiasm, his mongrel, but he's controlling it this year. He's just taken it to that next level. So 9.5 out of 10 for him. He was a lot of people's man of the match, him or Chance Nigel-Clockstead. But for me, given the Warriors points there that we have going on the Warriors Anonymous podcast and the Facebook page, I gave my 3 points to SJ, 2 to Jazz and 1 to CNK, purely because I don't know, I just love the way that Jazz goes nuts. So yeah, didn't let anybody down. Contributed in different ways to Tohu, but yeah, outstanding. Ford, just a ball of energy and 41 tackles from him as well. Like, he's first up there with the kick chases for a guy his size. Probably needs to work a little bit better with his edges over there, but, you know, again, he's new to the club. He's been in and out. We've had a few changes in the halves there and in the centres. So, yeah, no complaints from me. 8.5 on that effort. Nia Cornet, like, he played one of his best games I've seen from him, but drop ball, he let in that first bloody try. He gave away a couple of penalties and ended up getting 10 in the bin, which was a bit of a tough call. But hey, so I dropped him down to 7. But if it hadn't been for those, he was up there with a 9. Best game for me so far. Bunty, yeah. You know, he did his job. He gets out there, he nails it in the first 20 minutes. But I guess that's just what he's there for at the moment, is just to take that ball up and make those hit-ups. You know, take the gas out of their other guys, and then we can bring in quicker, more mobile players to play it out there. So, you know, did his job. I'll give him a 7. I'm going to be generous this week. Old Bunty, be curious to see what happens when Tohu comes back. He might be the guy to drop out, unfortunately. AFB, another solid game from him, 8, 9. You know, can't fault the guy's motor for a guy his size. Big minutes, played around 60 minutes again there, and he just doesn't puff, mate. For a guy who's well over 100 kgs, what, he's about 115 or something like that, he had so much more gas in the tank than their props did towards the end of the game there. And that's what I wanted to see from him last year. I felt he was a bit sort of overweight there, bit of plotting going on, but this year he's in it for the whole game. So another outstanding game from him. Egan got another try, did everything you could ask from him. Just didn't seem as quite as as dynamic as we've seen from in other games, but very little you could take away from him. 8.5 for me. Again, I'm just going to say one little criticism, and this is a strength I saw from the Sharks, and I think it's something we've still yet to get. Their hooker, when he's going out of dummy half, very quick, but he's always got that middle forward on his shoulder and making those little pop play that gets the extra 10 metres where so often Egan's getting caught with the ball. I don't put that all down to him. It's just getting the forwards knowing or being able to spot when he's going to run. And if he can link up a little bit more, outstanding. Dylan Walker, mate, what another impact he had. Some of his hits, his runs, his energy. 8.5 for me. A couple of little mistakes in there, but with the intensity he plays at and the speed he plays at, he brings so much more than he gives away by a couple of little cock-ups in the middle of the game. You're so stoked he's at the club. Curran, so I was really hoping he would step up and stamp his authority on the game, given what he's been through, being dropped over the past couple of weeks. There's still a little bit of a whisper around the club that's been hanging around since the end of last season that he wants to leave. I just hope with the fire I saw in his eyes and the way he was so excited at the end of the game there, that it does really reignite a fire in him, and he does want to stay, because I think he's a massive player in our future. So that try he got, just absolutely bullocking run for a guy who's not huge, just absolutely smashed his way over there. Just couldn't stop but smile. And like I said, his post-match interview, outstanding. Limited minutes, I think he was only on there for the last 18, 20 minutes. But what he did, I'm going to have to give him a 7.5, even though he had limited minutes there. So well done to him. He's put himself right in back inside the selection mix for next week. Ciro got a lot more minutes this time due to Voltman going off for the HIA there, and he got pulled a little bit. I felt like he was a lot more involved. He showed a lot more direct running. He showed a lot of the stuff you want from a back rower, rather than sort of being a guy sort of floating around and playing kind of that link play. Hit some defence. He got a lot of post-contact metres there. So his best effort for me, 7.5 for him, even with limited minutes again. Guys like him just show what mugs like me who don't really know the game don't recognise that has been seen by the smart people in the world like Webby there. So well done to him. And Tom Ali, yet another game with 100% tackle efficiency. He hasn't missed a tackle that I can recall in his past 4 games. Machine, he got some quite good minutes there. He's just a really strong, intense runner, makes his tackles, just does all the dirty work in that middle period of the game or into the second half there. Great bench prop for me. Solid 7 for him, even though he didn't play huge minutes. So overall, other than a couple of indiscretions and putting ourselves in a situation to get outnumbered there and let those bloody tries in, every man stood up again. I'm going to go back actually and make another mention of Adam Pompey, a guy I've never really got into. I never really thought he made the most of his size, but he is starting to dominate his opposition in the way he's running the ball. When he can run over the top of guys like Talakai and Jesse Ramian and the like, and running over back rowers to free up those balls to pass, those little subtle hands there for that try. He's really growing into a very solid centre there. I'd still like to see that defence sort of link up a little bit better, but looking back at his stats, he actually didn't miss that many tackles, so good on him. Viola, not 100% sure of. I wouldn't be surprised if Rocco Berry gets a run over the next coming weeks, but let's see how they go. Last but not least, I'm going to say it again. Andrew Webster, you are a fucking legend. I don't know another way to say it. A leader amongst men, just an absolute good bastard. You just see the way he speaks in every interview, post game, he must have just been so excited. They try to draw him into making, statements, speaking negatively. He just manages to keep a smile, laugh his way out of it, talks about his boys and doesn't talk himself up. Just such an awesome gift. A gift for the club. Gives me hope. So, energy levels are starting to drop a bit, but shit, absolutely outstanding effort from the boys. As I said, probably my second best win ever for the Warriors, behind that semi-final win in Melbourne against the Storms back in the 2000s. I still feel we've got 30-40% left in us. I think that's scary for a lot of other teams. I think this weekend, Barnett, Tohu, Dallin, all back in the mix. From all accounts, Metcalf, he's been to the States, he's seen that guru. They're talking potentially 2 rounds away. So we get those guys back in, playing our top team. I'm not sure how Metcalf fits in, but you imagine him in the back of those games where we've sat their forwards of energy, perhaps taking Ciro's role there. Shit could get very, very interesting, people. But to all those bandwagon jumpers, welcome aboard. Us random bloody hardcores have been here through thick and thin. We're happy to have you. If it means that those grounds get filled up over the coming weeks, I say bring them on. Bring on the bandwagon. Just don't jump off too early, because there'll be a few bumps along the way, no doubt. But up the mighty bloody Warriors. This is the Warriorholic, all in for 2023.